I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. I'm honestly so excited to talk to you and ask you some questions.
Oh, awesome. Me too.
Where in the world are you today?
I'm actually in Malibu and so West Coast.
Oh, so cool. I'd love to hear a little bit about your new business venture, I think with your family, if I'm correct.
Sure, okay. So, my dad has owned restaurants for pretty much my entire life, and my family was a big Italian family. We grew up with tons of food and cooking and everything from just basically very hospitable, big Italian family. And my dad and I have never had a business together. I've actually, of course, never really owned a restaurant, so this is our first time opening up something together. My cousin is also involved, so it's definitely like a very close to home family feel. It's also the first restaurant that my dad has opened up, or that my family has opened up in Rhode Island, because a lot of his restaurants are in Boston. So there are a lot of things that are really special about it. It's my home state. It's also with my dad, with my family. So that's really exciting. All my brothers and sisters will work in it, my cousins, and we're all just really, really excited. That's
so exciting, because that's a little bit different than what you obviously are known for, which is being such a fashionista and an influencer. I'm curious what it was like being a child model, and kind of how did that influence your perception of yourself and your body in the future?
That's so interesting. I think that no matter what you're doing this day and age, there's so much pressure, whether you're modeling or acting or just or doing any line of work. It does not have to be in the entertainment business at all. Every woman, every person struggles to get to know themselves and to really embrace their bodies, to understand their shape and who they are and what makes them different, and learning to love it. And everybody feels the pressure to kind of fit in, and that can make it difficult sometimes to embrace every part of your body. So I definitely had to struggle with that, just like any other person, just kind of get to know like who I am and what makes me different. And I think as you grow older and really get to know yourself, you can start to actually love the things that make you different, and you understand that everybody has a different body type and relationship with their body, and that's what actually makes us all so special and beautiful.
So how did you kind of go from modeling into acting to television? I see now you have this collaboration with an awesome company. So obviously you're interested pretty much in a lot of different fashion, and you have such a good sense of style. So how did you kind of try to build everything so that they would mesh all together?
I think that for me, I've always been really diligent about, I guess, not seizing every opportunity and really making the most of it. And I think that that's something that has allowed me to get a hand in so many different areas of work. Like I do so much. I'm acting, I'm modeling, I'm also designing, and I'm traveling a lot. And I love to cook, and now I'm opening this business. And there's so many things there's so many opportunities that I'm so lucky to have. It's something that I've always really tried to do, is just like really embrace the opportunities and never really shy away from anything. And I think that's why at this point I've been able to do so many different and somewhat random things.
Absolutely. And with this new collection, I see you have, so you're working on something with DSW. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So DSW, I am the style ambassador for DSW, which is really exciting. It's a big part of what I love to do and provide for girls and everybody, is make sure that they understand that you don't have to spend so much money to make an outfit amazing. And I also feel like things like shoes, they're just such investments. You don't necessarily need 50 booties or 40 points a month. Like, you really just need a few staples to incorporate in your wardrobe. It will make getting dressed fun and easy, make you feel good. And DSW has such accessible clothing. They have such a variety of styles, and it's so affordable that that was just one of my most exciting collaborations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that because I'm 19, so I have a pretty strong following with teens, and I know that so many of them are going to DSW and shopping at those kind of places, and that's why I really wanted to thank you just for being such a positive inspiration for so many young adults, because there's so much content right now on the internet, and I think a lot of teens are facing so many insecurities that come from just what they see. So I'm interested to get your opinion on how you think social media is either positively or negatively affecting teen girls and their bodies.
That's so interesting. I cannot believe that you're 19 years old.
Oh my gosh, you're so sweet. Thanks.
Social media and how it's related to young women and their relationship with their bodies.
Yeah.
So I think that it's definitely getting harder for people to experience their own journey with their own body when they are constantly faced with comparison with other people. And that's definitely something that I struggle with, and I always struggle with it. I think that everybody is in their human nature to think, oh, that person has this and I have that.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm less than, or maybe I'm not good enough. And it's so difficult, and it's such a hard thing to go through. And social media is definitely making it more difficult. So I think that the most helpful thing that every girl needs to remember, and I even say this to my little sister all the time, she's 20 now, who I feel like really has to deal with a lot of it because she's that crazy millennial generation that we're all in. But I always remind her that you have to understand that when people are posting online, it's a highlight reel, and it's very much just what they want to put out there. And a picture can say 1,000 words, but it doesn't necessarily tell you too much about that person. Like, you never really know what's behind that perfect body that you think is perfect, or that perfect smile. Like, we all struggle with something. Nobody's perfect, whether it's because they're mentally suffering or physically suffering, or, you know, so many things in life are difficult. And I think that we have to remember that what we see is not necessarily the truth. Because as soon as you think that everybody's perfect except for you, you're going to lose no matter what, because that's just not true, and you're going to compare yourself to an ideal that doesn't even exist.
Absolutely. Is that something that you've dealt with in the industry too, especially kind of growing up, being so young in it? Have you found that social media has kind of, you know, obviously positively affected you, but there's been times where you felt bad about yourself, or there's times where you compared yourself to other people?
Definitely. I think that it's really easy to go on social media, especially when, like, maybe somebody's at something that you really want to go to, or you just feel like you just are comparing what your current situation is with what someone else is doing. And I think that it can be really easy to go down that rabbit hole and feel like you're not doing enough because you're not doing what other people are, what you see other people are doing, or you don't look the way that you want to look compared to somebody else. And I've definitely dealt with that before. But I think that focusing on what you have in front of you right now and trying to make the most out of that, and I'm really passionate about creating in general, and usually for me that means not really the best idea to look at what someone else is doing and what they're creating. If anything, it's like you want to be inspired by what other people put out there. And I think that's the thing that actually social media can help with. It's like, instead of looking at somebody that has the six-pack that you want and thinking, oh, they have that and I don't, I'm a loser and they're amazing, you can think, oh my gosh, that person has a six-pack. They can do it, I can do it. And then that way it can actually kind of flip it and make it into an inspiring and encouraging thing. And think like, wow, life is so beautiful. There's so many beautiful people in this world, and like, if they're doing this, then I can do it too. I think that that's another part of social media that can also be lost. That's actually pretty valuable.
Absolutely. I'm so curious then to hear, what does being a powerful woman mean to you, and how can more girls kind of believe that they're powerful too? It seems like you have such a good amount of experience and such a good head on your shoulders, and that's such a breath of fresh air. So, I mean, what does being a powerful woman mean to you, and what should girls growing up know about themselves and their body, and how to, you know, be the Olivia Culpo, but also be their own person?
I think that's a tough question. It does kind of change every day, because every day you're kind of faced with a new challenge that you personally have to overcome and kind of wrap your head around. But I feel like myself and like find the answers, and just like journaling. I love journaling and writing down my thoughts and kind of setting goals and writing down inspirational quotes or planning things, venting. It's really, really helpful for me, and I've been doing it since I was like in middle school.
Yeah.
And then another thing that's helpful for me is meditation. Kind of like also ways to ground yourself and center yourself and get into reality and get a fresh perspective. And then I think also like creating personal mantras for yourself, like quotes that inspire you and make you feel good and keep you level-headed. They're also like just good like daily reminders to have about staying true to yourself and staying in your power. We all have the same amount of power, but sometimes it can get lost when you're, for example, comparing yourself or having low self-esteem or all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that, same amount. Something else, I guess on that similar topic too, is I have a nonprofit that I started too for teens on social media and mental health. So we go into schools and we talk to teens about their bodies, and we're kind of like the DARE, but for social media. And every time we pick 3 people that we put up on the screen, celebrities or influencers, and we try and pick 3 people one of them who we think is a positive role model and one of them who we think isn't necessarily the best role model. So who kind of is your role model? Who inspires you? And besides yourself, because we always put you up on the screen, who else do you think is somebody that could be a positive role model for us to show young girls and boys, who they should be looking up to?
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh my gosh, I have a role model, and she's younger. I think she's probably your age. She's the sweetest, cutest girl ever. I'm totally struck by her last name is Zara, the girl that we're looking at her right now. But she's so sweet. She's a huge breath of fresh air. She's so smart and she's really, really eager to learn. You can tell. Like taking Instagram pictures of her with like 30 books.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Shakini, Yara Shakini is her name. She's an actress.
Okay.
And then other role models that I've always looked up to, one is Audrey Hepburn. She's so graceful and she did so much. She's basically started UNICEF and worked so closely with a lot of different charities. Such a talented actress, sort of on the box too for her time. She's definitely changing just the way society worked in her time. Like she wasn't the norm, yet she made it work, and she really like stood in her own unique power. For Generation Partners, she was just so cute and she was so successful. Also for me, I really admire Oprah because she has her own network.
Yeah.
And then James, she's done so much in the industry, and we talk about something that's broken all sorts of barriers. She does so much. I think she's a great role model as well.
Absolutely. Hearing you mention the part about the charity part of it, what is the best lesson that you've learned with your work on the UN, and what has it kind of taught you?
Every charity that I've ever worked with, I feel like especially when I was traveling in the universe, I learned a lot about, I just gained a lot of perspective about how people all over the world live and how fortunate we are in so many ways to live in a country where we have so many rights and so many resources and opportunities that really just don't exist in other parts of the world for other people, that is so unbelievably upsetting.
Yeah.
So that was the main thing that I learned, real perspective on things that need to change and how fortunate we are and how much we need to work together to kind of change the world.
I guess on a different note too, I'm really curious because I know that everything on, social media has really changed, but do you consider yourself to be an influencer? And when you're working with brands and you do brand partnerships, are you pitched as an influencer? What do you like to consider yourself? Because obviously you've got a pretty strong social following. So if you could kind of label yourself right now, especially with some of the brand work you're doing, what would you kind of say?
I think that I am doing a lot of things, so usually I just introduce in a lot of different ways, but we'll say actress, model, influencer, and closely because of the designing that I've been doing, and a lot of the things that I do on Instagram are more just for outfits and whatnot. So it's actress, model, fashion, and TV influencer.
Okay.
That is what I refer to. It's a lot of titles. I think that we all have a lot of titles these days because there's so much opportunity that we've been able to gain through social media and just kind of being our own businesses as brands.
Absolutely. I mean, you've kind of been, you know, doing this in this world for a while, so you've been able to see how the internet and how social media has changed. I mean, I bet when, you know, Miss Universe there wasn't this whole, you know, influencer. I mean, I love that term, but there wasn't this whole like obsession with blogging and influencing, and I guess, you know, the fact that people can become, I guess, viral celebrities overnight. What do you think about that? Because that's something that I always think about too, is having been doing this since I was, you know, 12, and now there's this whole wave of people who can become an overnight sensation. Do you think that it's better to, you know, work on something for a while and then see success with it, or is it all just a matter of luck?
I think personally that everybody has their own experience. Everybody's going to have their own journey with whatever they want to do, whatever their passions are. If that means that it's snowboarding success, then that's a great thing. It means that it's more of less of a sprint and more of a marathon, and they're doing this for a long time and it takes a little bit longer, then I think that's great too. There's no one way to do this. There's just your dreams and your aspirations and your goals, and there are so many different ways of being able to get there. And now with social media, with Instagram, sure, that's like one new avenue that somebody can take to get to where they want to be, but there are also so many other ways you can make a name for yourself. And I think that's the thing that is most important to keep in mind is what is different, what's new, what is everybody else not doing. Because right now with Instagram, when people are getting super successful on that, like, you can see something else tomorrow you just don't know about yet. So you're like, you really have to keep an open mind and just kind of deal with the cards you've been dealt, go with it, and stick to that. If you don't do that, you kind of like stay in your own lane, then
Totally.
you don't become successful no matter what.
Yeah, totally. I mean, with social media, kind of when you started with social media, it probably wasn't as like prominent and, you know, big as it was now. So what, you know, did you find necessary in terms of like, you know, promoting and getting your name out there when you first started? Because, you know, social media now obviously is such a big thing, but, you know, a few years ago it was like, it wasn't as big, Instagram and stuff. So what, I guess, would be your tip for somebody who's interested in getting more on the internet or making a name for themselves? You know, whether or not they're interested in using social media as that platform, or whether they want to do it offline. What would be your advice for them?
Well, yeah, I think definitely has changed with social media for me. When I first started out, it was not even a big deal. Twitter was the only thing that was relevant, but not really. But I think that for somebody that's first starting out, you really just have to find your niche. And the most important thing I think is like, find something you're passionate about and tell that story. Don't try to just post things because you want to be relevant and stay noticed. It's not really about that. That's not really going to make you happy ultimately. And you want to be successful and you want things to last for a long time. You have to be careful about not doing things for the wrong reasons, because that gets old really fast.
Totally, I completely agree. So what piece of advice would you give your younger self?
I think my younger self, I feel like I can still probably say this to myself now. It's just like, I remind myself this all the time that like it's all gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, the more things you get and the more opportunities you receive and the more beautiful things that life gives you, it's almost as if you're so happy about it, but then there's so much more you always want to do. Which is something that I really try to remind myself it's not everything. And for me, what always really grounds me also is just the people in my life and family and friends, and just remembering that that's really what life should be about. And I think that is what I would continue to tell myself, and especially tell my younger self, that it's all going to be okay, and that no matter what happens, it's still going to be fine.
I mean, I find that it's that same thing, and it's like the more good things happen, but, you know, and the more success that brings, and, you know, more money and, you know, stability and stuff, but it's almost like you want new things all the time. So what kind of keeps you humble? What would you say is your piece of advice for when all these good opportunities happen and, you know, bigger things? What do you do to refrain from, you know, getting so caught up in the excitement?
What I've always held on to is just refreshing myself and staying grounded. And even for me, it's actually just going home to Rhode Island. Every time I go home to Rhode Island, I see real life, because I feel like I can be in a bubble sometimes between these big cities and big events and flashy things. And when I go home and I see how simple my family is, how simple my friends are, and how happy they are with me, just as it is.
Yeah.
They are so inspirational, because it just reminds you that you can have all these things, you can have flashy events, you can have nice things, you can have all the money in the world, but it's not going to make you happy. It's like a fruitless cause trying to find happiness with material things outside of yourself. And going home always reminds me of that. So that's for me what brings me back to reality.